plant. So yes, okay, we're going to do respiration, but if we take one step back, having thought about photosynthesis, can you then have a little look? Can you ever think, what are the main uses of glucose in a plant? So I'll just give you a few minutes to do that, see how many you can list. There are quite a number, so take a minute, have a think. Thanks for those who are joining. So we're just spending a minute. I'd just like you to have a little think about the uses of glucose in a plant. So yes, we're going to do respiration today, but can you have a little go at listing? Could just be a long list on your page. Maybe you want to lay it out in a little diagram. I think my answer is actually going to be more of a mind map. So if you want to have a go, then try and have a list of as many things as you can think of that glucose is going to be used for in a plant. Okay, I'll start answering, and you can see if you can add to my answer. So what about if we join glucoses together? What do we make then? There's actually going to be two things coming off there that I can think of. And then the other one, commonly forgotten, but this is why seeds are highly recommended part of a healthy diet. What is it that you find in seeds that is good for you? And then this one is what happens if we take glucose and we add nitrate. We're going to add nitrate. What do you get then? We can actually turn it into a different type of sugar that is then transported around the plant. Do you know the name for that? And then finally, the thing that we're going to be talking about today. So see if you can add to that. Thanks for those people who have just joined us. So we're just having a go through. We're just having a run through. Yes, we're going to do bioenergetics respiration. The bit just before this, the topic just before bioenergetics respiration is bioenergetics photosynthesis. And the final bit of that is, okay, now we've learned all about photosynthesis. What is it that glucose can be used for in a plant? So I've said, here's glucose. Here's my list of things it can be used for in a plant. Can you add to them? And then my hints were, what happens when we join many glucoses together? What is the thing found in seeds? What happens if we add nitrate to glucose? And what happens, what sort of sugar do we make in order for it to be transported around the plant? And then I guess what is the thing we're talking about today? So just 2 more minutes, see if you can add to that diagram, see if you can finish it off with, you know, the actual key elements of the actual uses. So I don't think I've given you any answers there, but a little bit of guidance towards them. So this first one here, then, we join many together. Well, if we join them in a long chain like this, then we've actually made cellulose. And remember, that's the structure that we are making a cell wall out of. So that is the strengthening component in a cell wall. So cellulose, and then that's going to strengthen cell wall. There's another chain we can make, more of a sort of spiral shape. And that's the other storage molecule in plants, and that one is starch. Remember, starch is important because it's insoluble. So it's not going to dissolve in water, and that then means it has no effect on osmosis. So we're currently just going through the main uses of glucose in plants. So at the moment, if we join lots of glucoses together, the plant can build cellulose, and that cellulose can be used to make a cell wall. If we join them together and make a different structure, and that other structure is starch, well, that's the storage molecule that then can be stored within the cells without actually having any impact on osmosis, because it's not soluble, it's not going to dissolve. Okay, in our seeds then, we're going to find fats and oils. In seeds, we're going to be fats and oils, and those are an excellent energy store. But when this wants to go through germination, if we're going to add nitrates, remember the nitrate, we get nitrate from the soil. Nitrate is going to come from the soil. We add it together, add it to glucose. Glucose add nitrates is going to make for me an amino acid, or amino acids. Sorry, there's lots of different types, lots of different flavors, and then we join those amino acids together in long chains. You do the same. Plants do the same. We join them in long chains. Those long chains curl up and make proteins. So glucose added to nitrogen gives us, added to nitrates makes amino acids. Those amino acids join together in particular orders to make different sorts of proteins. For our transport then, we are going to just make a different type of sugar called sucrose. Okay, so we've got sucrose, this sort of transport molecule that can then move around the plant and be delivered to the areas where it's required. So remember, this is being produced by photosynthesis. There is a lot of cells in the plant that aren't doing photosynthesis, particularly the roots, and so sucrose can then be transported through the phloem down to the roots. And then the thing I've not left myself enough room for, this one here, the one we're doing today, glucose, exactly as it is in your cells, is used for aerobic respiration. Okay, so just a little bit of a recap then for photosynthesis. There's plenty of topic before that. It is worth going through yourself and just saying, okay, how confident am I on all of the bioenergetics bit for photosynthesis? And today we will focus then on aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So, respiration then. A respiration that is happening in your cells we can call cellular respiration, and it's an exothermic reaction. Remember, this prefix here is the same as exit. If you're going to exit something, you're going out of something, and so exothermic means that energy is being given off. The opposite of that, remember, is endothermic, and that's when energy needs to go into the reaction for it to happen. So your cells are doing cellular respiration. and they're doing it for a number of reasons. And this is why I've started with this little, these are the uses of glucose. So what are the reasons? We're going to do a similar little layout here. What are the reasons that we're going to do respiration? What is it for? And so broadly, we need it for chemical reactions. I.e. it's providing energy for chemical reactions, and often that is to build larger molecules. It's required for muscle contractions. For all of your movement. And it keeps you warm. You're warm-blooded and your core temperature, remember, is 37.5 degrees C. And the vast majority of your enzymes are working at 37.5 degrees C as their optimum temperature. And so your body maintains itself homeostatically. We're doing homeostasis at the moment, but remember that's a B2 topic. And the reason your body is kept at that temperature is because that is the temperature at which your enzymes are working most effectively at the fastest rate of reaction. So the uses of the energy it's producing energy, it's a chemical reaction. The uses of the energy, I reckon I can get 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I'll give you a little hint to these 6. I want you to have a little sit and a think, take a minute, draw that out, and then see if you can get 6 uses of the energy in your body. And I'll give you a clue to a couple of them. I'm going to put a clue here for this one. I'm going to put a clue here for this one. I'm just going to draw a little cell diagram. That's my best drawing so far. I'm going to put a clue here for this one. And I'm going to try another drawing for this one. Let's go like this. And then okay, so 2 minutes. See if you can come up with 6 things, or the 6 main things that you think the energy produced in aerobic respiration is used for in your body. Okay, so this one I've not given you a hint for. In my mind, this was muscle contractions. This was my best attempt at a neuron, a nerve cell. So we can say the passage of nerve impulses. This one down here, again, we had it with the plants above. We eat protein. Remember, it's going to get digested and broken down into amino acids, and we then take those amino acids and we rebuild them into the proteins you need. So if you eat chicken protein, it's not that protein then goes straight to your muscles. You break it down into the constituent amino acids, and then you rebuild it into your own human muscle protein. And we call that, it's a lovely word, we call it protein synthesis. Protein synthesis. So first three, helping with your nerve impulses, providing energy for muscle contractions, and synthesizing the making of proteins. This ropey diagram over here, this was me trying to represent some particles at a high concentration inside a cell and at a low concentration outside of a cell. So this could be in a root hair cell. Often this process has to happen in plants. Often you have a mineral of high concentration here, and we're going to have to move it against the concentration gradient. And remember, if it's going with the concentration gradient, that's going to either be diffusion, or the special water case of diffusion is osmosis, or we're going to go against the concentration gradient. And if we're going against, it requires energy. That energy is from aerobic respiration, and that process, you know, is active transport. Active transport. This one here is just your cell growth and division. That requires energy. And then finally, maintaining your body temperature. So 6 uses of the energy. We're going to learn how we're going to make the energy, but we now know that we're going to take on some glucose, we're going to react it, and we're going to make some products. And one of the products is the energy itself, and those little packets of energy are used for protein synthesis, muscle contractions, nerve impulses, active transport, cell division and growth, and maintaining your body temperature. So we need to know the formula. It's worth knowing the word equation, and then also knowing the balanced symbol equation. So let's have a little go at that. Let's try both of those now. Let's do the word equation first. I'm just going to draw some lines so you can have a little go at filling it in. I've got that plus this, and then we get this plus this plus this. Draw a little organelle here. I want you to tell me what this organelle is, if you can. Okay, so this is aerobic respiration. If you're feeling really confident on your word equation, you can then go straight on and also have a little go at a balanced symbol equation. Give you another minute to do that. At least get this one done. Have a go at the words. Okay, start doing this one then. So we're going to take in the glucose, going to eat the glucose in some form or other, and we're going to react it with the oxygen we breathe in. The process is taking place inside mitochondria. So aerobic respiration is taking place inside the mitochondria, and it is producing carbon dioxide and water and these little packets of energy. When you go on to study A level, you'll find out they're called ATP. Then we need to know the balanced formula. So if we write the formulas out first, glucose is C6H12O6. Oxygen in the air, it's just that lovely little diatomic molecule floating around, and it floats around and then binds to your hemoglobin and is transported around your body to your respiring cells. And then you breathe out a slightly higher concentration of CO2 because it is a product of our aerobic respiration. You breathe out a bit of water as well. We actually don't need to balance the energy in this equation. So remember, when you're balancing, obviously your chemistry knowledge will be better than mine at this juncture. For this, I don't actually have to do any calculations. I don't have to do any working out. I can just remember nice and quickly it is 6, 6, 6. So if you put 666 in front of everything without a 6 in, this one's already got its 6's, so leave it alone. 666, then that is balanced. You're welcome to go away and draw all of these out or use whatever method you use in chemistry for balancing. But I can tell you now that is correct. If you just quickly tot up the number of oxygens on this side and the number of oxygens on this side, you will find that they are the same. So remember, you're trying to balance. When you're balancing something, you need exactly the same number of atoms of each element on this side as you have on this side, and you can only put numbers. You can only put big numbers in front of the molecules. I couldn't put a small 2 down here to increase the amount of oxygen. Indeed, if I did, that would be H2O2. That's hydrogen peroxide, which is bleach. So you can't put small numbers down here. You can put 6, because essentially I'm then saying I want 6 of this molecule, 6 times H2O. And 6 times the molecule of CO2. So you can't change the small numbers when you're balancing. You can only put big numbers in front. These small numbers are telling me how many atoms are in this molecule of glucose. And in fact, this glucose forms a lovely sort of hexagon shape, 6-sided with 6 carbons. Okay, now there is another type of respiration that can happen in our animal cells, and that's called anaerobic respiration, and that also has a formula. Goes from here to here, plus this thing. And this is going to happen for the most part, anaerobic respiration in animal cells. Let's put in animal cells there. Is going to happen in your muscles when you are doing vigorous exercise, some kind of high intensity exercise where you're not able to supply enough oxygen. You still need the energy. We're still needing to do all the contractions. We're still needing to do the movement, but we can't actually get the oxygen in quick enough. And so in this instance, it is glucose taken to your muscles, and it is broken down into lactic acid plus energy. And because this process is not as complete as this one, we actually say there is incomplete oxidation of glucose. And by oxidation, reacting with oxygen, incomplete oxidation, then there is much less oxygen. Sorry, much less energy released. So you're getting significantly more energy from your aerobic respiration. You're getting significantly less energy from anaerobic respiration. So this is kind of like an emergency backup. This happens and when you don't have enough oxygen, and then you go into oxygen debt, and that oxygen debt is you then having to breathe in lots and lots of oxygen for this then to be metabolized in your liver. But we'll come back to that in a bit. Okay. I'll leave that there. So we also have anaerobic respiration in plants and yeast. So we need to know a little bit about that. And in this example, we're going to do some anaerobic respiration in yeast. Let's pick yeast, and we're going to take in some glucose. Those yeast are going to do some anaerobic respiration, and I'm going to produce a couple of products this time, and those products are an alcohol, often ethanol, and obviously this is the foundation of the production of alcohol for consumption. We can use yeast to mix some yeast with some glucose. We allow it to ferment, and the yeast will break up all the glucose, and it will release ethanol into the liquid, and it will also release carbon dioxide. And so this is how you're going to make beer. You're going to get some yeast, you're going to put it in some water, add some glucose, do lots of other little processes, but the yeast is going to break the glucose down into ethanol, and it's going to release CO2, and then it's going to make all the processes for energy, for those little packets of energy. But the CO2 will dissolve into the liquid, and you'll make yourself a fizzy alcoholic drink. Similarly, this is how yeast is being used to help bread rise. So you're also putting yeast into your bread mixture. It's doing the same thing, except at much lower level, and it is the little bubbles of carbon dioxide that are allowing, so that little bubbling is allowing your bread to rise. It's giving your dough those little bubbles. Those little bubbles are actually little bubbles of carbon dioxide, and that's what's making your bread rise. So two important processes. All this are fermentation for bread making. And also making alcoholic drinks. Okay, let's do a very quick comparison table then. So we just want to be able to compare and contrast aerobic and anaerobic. And what are the four things? So oxygen, glucose breakdown, what are the products, and how much energy. Sorry about that last one. That is a mess. Okay, so have a quick go at that. Nice little summary table to have on one of your revision cards. Common question, similarities, differences, compare and contrast. How does anaerobic differ from aerobic? So for instance, glucose breakdown in aerobic is complete and in anaerobic incomplete. Do we need oxygen? Yeah, it's needed for this one. It's not needed here. What are the products? CO2 plus H2O, carbon dioxide and water. In animals, oh, should have done a better table. In animals, product is one thing, and in yeast, a couple of other things, isn't it? So in animals, it's lactic acid. And in yeast, it's carbon dioxide and ethanol. And this is you have to use a very specific yeast to get ethanol. You can't just do this with wild yeast. If you use wild yeast, you're going to get all sorts of stuff. You get methanol, which will make you go blind. So this process has to be very carefully controlled and refined. And then the energy released, well, this is going to be a lot of energy, and then this is only a little. Okay, so we've got a formula, word, and our balanced symbol. We've got anaerobic in animals giving us lactic acid. We're going to talk about that next, about what we're going to do about that. It's incomplete and therefore not much energy. We've got anaerobic in plants and yeast. It's going to give us some sort of alcohol and CO2. And the reason this is important to us, and we've known about these two things for a very long time. We've been making bread that rises for a long time. We've been making alcoholic drinks for a very long time. And we use this natural process of anaerobic respiration of yeast. Glucose goes to ethanol and carbon dioxide. And then a little summary then for us. Aerobic, oxygen is needed, the glucose breakdown is complete, the products are CO2 and H2O, and lots of energy is released. And anaerobic, you don't need any oxygen. It is incomplete breakdown of glucose, and this is important. We'll come back to what we do next with it. And then in animals, we make lactic acid. In the yeast, we make carbon dioxide and ethanol. And then the energy released from that one is only a little bit of energy. Okay, it's going to have a 1 minute pause there. Can I suggest, can you take that minute and just see if you can rewrite everything we've just done, maybe just rewrite it down in 10 bullet points. Can you summarize it down into 10 bullet points? I'll give you 1 minute. Okay, well done, gents. And it's good if you're, when you're at home and you've done maybe 20, 30 minutes, it's good to give yourself a little pause. It's good to have a break. I should have said at the beginning, but I think I'm recording this, and therefore you are able to go and rewatch it. You can pause me later on, but it's good for you to have a little break and then come back and maybe just jot down everything you can think of that we've just been through. Okay, so and kind of left it on a cliffhanger with that anaerobic respiration, and we now need to solve that. You cannot have lactic acid floating around in your body, and indeed you could do a little experiment now while you're sat working. You could hold one arm up in the air, preferably not the arm you're writing with. Why don't you hold your left arm up in the air while we're doing this next bit and see how long you can hold it up for. And what will happen is you will start to feel pain, and that pain is the fact that those muscle contractions are happening over and over and over again. Your muscles are using up all of the available oxygen, and at some point your muscles are the cells are having to do anaerobic respiration, and they're producing lactic acid, and that lactic acid makes your cells far less efficient. It makes the contractions less efficient, and it begins to cause you pain. And so you've now got inefficient muscle contractions and you've got some sort of pain. Okay, so hopefully you're sat there with left hand up in the air. So what is the effect of exercise? So when we all movement is requiring muscles to contract. However, when we exercise, the number of contractions muscle contractions increases. Therefore, with that increasing contractions, require more energy. And because you need more energy, muscles need more oxygen for more aerobic respiration. The human body then has to react in order to allow this to happen. So the reaction is as follows. We're going to have to increase our breathing rate. And also increase your breath volume. You're going to take deeper breaths, filling areas of your lungs that you don't necessarily feel when you're at resting. So sat at your desk now working, hopefully with your left arm still up in the air, you are not requiring an increase in breathing rate, and you're not requiring big deep breaths. But when you are exercising, number of contractions increases. This needs more energy. The muscles need more oxygen for more aerobic respiration to supply that energy. So your body has to react. What your body's going to do is it's going to increase the breathing rate, and it's going to increase the breath volume. It's going to increase, therefore, the amount of oxygen able increasing the amount of oxygen that's then going to diffuse into your bloodstream. Ready to be transported around the body. It also means that you're removing more CO2. More CO2 is removed. And in order to then support the faster movement of that oxygen, we're also going to increase your heart rate. So the question around this little summary could be, explain why your heart rate increases during exercise. And then you just need to essentially work backwards from here, or work your way down from here. Both, you can go both ways, and the answer will still make sense. But if the question is, why do we do this one? Why does your heart rate increase? Well, the heart rate increases because there is more blood in my oxygen, more oxygen in my blood from the fact that my breathing rate has increased and the breathing volume has increased. That blood needs transporting to the muscles and the respiring cells for more aerobic respiration, for more contractions that are required during exercise. Or maybe the question will be, why does your breathing rate increase? And it's the same. You are then just going to describe these and the fact that these are required because this is happening. So it's a nice little summary. I would put that on one revision card and just be ready with it, because this question is very common. Why does the heart rate increase? Why does the breathing rate increase? And you just then need to say, well, the muscle contractions are increasing, or the number of them is increasing because, and then we need more energy, and they're getting that from more aerobic respiration, and therefore more oxygen is required. Now, if we carry on, this is great. The fitter you are, the more the larger your lungs are, the larger your heart is. Proportionally, not an absolutely huge heart is actually quite bad for you, but a larger heart is going to be able to pump a greater blood volume per beat. And so people who are extremely fit often have a slightly larger heart and therefore slower heart rate overall. If your resting heart rate's down at 40 beats a minute, then that means you're incredibly fit. And actually the true measure of fitness is going from 40 beats a minute. You then go up to 90% of your maximum heart rate. Is how quickly that heart rate then returns down to 40 is quite a good measure of fitness. However, we're going to carry on exercising quite vigorously, and at some point the oxygen being supplied is no longer sufficient. You're still doing the exercise, you still need the energy for the contractions, but it's actually doesn't matter how fast you breathe, how fast your heart rate is going, you're now not actually able to get enough oxygen to those cells, and that can happen quite quickly, particularly with high intensity sort of short, sharp bits of exercise. So we're now at the point where we're going to need to start getting energy supplied by anaerobic respiration. And we'll remember that anaerobic respiration is incomplete breakdown of glucose. And the result is the formation of lactic acid. Now, as I've said, that lactic acid causes us some problems, and we're going to have to sort that out. We're going to have to metabolize that. And so when you get to this point here, you something kicks in called oxygen debt. And what this is this is the extra oxygen required after exercise is finished to then react with the lactic acid and turn it back into glucose. And this oxygen, this oxygen debt is the reason that you continue to breathe quite heavily after exercise, because your body now still needs oxygen to react with the lactic acid to turn it back to glucose. And so this is the reason. Continue to breathe heavily, let's say heavily, so fast and deep after exercise. Okay. And it's worth remembering that this conversion happens in the liver. And we can actually get rid of our lactic acid in a second way. We can just react it with the oxygen to form CO2 plus H2O, which are then excreted in the normal way. So two ways that we can get rid of our lactic acid. It can be taken to the liver and converted back to glucose, or we're going to react with that oxygen and it's going to form CO2 and H2O. Okay, the final bit we're going to finish on, and that's not necessarily all of the respiration topic, but what we'll do is we'll just finish on one final little diagram of the kind of synthesis and breakdown of molecules on the page. Yeah. Okay, so I'll do 10 more minutes. What I'll then do is I'll upload. In fact, I might just upload them now. I'll share some questions, and what you can then do is you can download those questions, and I'll provide you with the answers to them next week. So I'll send you the questions now, and then you can have a go at them, and then I'll provide you with the answers to those questions next week. Again, you'll be able to download those. Give me a minute, I'll show that in a second. Okay, very quickly then. So if we have a little think about the kind of making and breaking, the synthesis and breakdown of molecules, then this is essentially the basis of our next little bit, which is our metabolism. And your metabolism is the sum of all reactions in a cell or the body. And our energy being released during respiration allows for enzyme control reactions to produce new molecules. So let's have a little think about some of those metabolic reactions. And they're going to include either the synthesis, so to make, or the breakdown of the following. We could have carbohydrates, and more complex carbohydrates can be built from simpler sugars like glucose, or lipids. And these are built from fatty acids, glycerol. You may remember that the breakdown of lipids is one of those common experiments. They like you to digest a lipid using lipase, and then the pH changes, the pH becomes more acidic because you're producing fatty acids. And they'll talk about some kind of pH change, and you have to spot, okay, there's a pH change because the breakdown of lipids using lipase produces fatty acids. And then finally our proteins, and these are going to be synthesized by amino acids. So let's have a little go at the following diagram. We're going to eat some food. And you're going to digest it using some enzymes, and we're going to absorb it. And that's happening in the small intestines. We do our 3 groups that we talked about above here then. Firstly, we've got glucose, and we've absorbed some fatty acids and glycerol. And we've absorbed some amino acids. And then the following is going to happen. So firstly, our amino acids we know can be used to build proteins. For example, your enzymes, your own enzymes are proteins. And if we eat too much amino acids, so this is what happens if you're drinking a protein shake, the vast majority of that protein shake is not able to be used because your body's only able to synthesize proteins at a certain rate. So what happens is it heads to the liver cells and it's broken down. Amino acids, excess, so if you've had too many, are broken down into we call carboxyl and amino groups. And then a couple of things can happen. So what happens next is the amino group is going to be weeded out. You're going to excrete it in your urine. So that's a very, very expensive urine. You've drunk your expensive protein shake. Your body's not actually been able to do anything with it. So it's gone straight to your liver. Your liver has broken it down, and the amino group at this point is converted into urea. And we excrete that, don't we, by your kidneys. The second part of that, the carboxyl group, actually comes in useful later, so we'll come back to that in a second. So you've absorbed some fatty acids and glycerol. Again, it's going to go to your liver. And it's going to be converted into triglycerides. You learn a lot more about these when you go on and study A-level. But in your animal cells, they're going to be used to make a cell membrane. And again, triglycerides are going to be used for something else in a second. We'll get there. And then finally, our glucose. Well, we can do a couple of things in your liver and muscle cells. We can convert it into, and those people doing homeostasis at the moment will remember, okay, how do we regulate our blood sugar? Well, we're going to convert it into our own storage molecule that we call glycogen, and that is then stored. And then finally, the little link in all of this is used in respiration. And the ones that are used in respiration are the glucose itself, but also this product here. When we break down the triglycerides, they're also usable over here. And this carboxyl group is also then able to be used in cellular respiration. And this is metabolism. This is what it is. Your body digests things and it absorbs them, and they're broken down and they're used for a number of different things. And for some of them, you're just going to excrete them straight away if you've had too much. Others are going to be used to make your cell membranes, or into respiration, or stored as glycogen as a storage molecule, or again used as respiration. And then the final little thing for me then is just some examples of metabolic reactions. We'll just list very quickly, and again, this could just be one revision card. We'll just list some examples of metabolic reactions. So, firstly, carbohydrates. Glucose is used in the synthesis of starch, which is energy storage in plants. Used in glycogen, which is your energy store in animals. And is used in cellulose, which is used to strengthen your cell walls. Not your cell walls, you don't have cell walls, you're not a plant, but it is used to strengthen the cell walls. And then I guess the breakdown of it, so this is the synthesis, and then I guess glucose is broken down in aerobic respiration. Lipids then. Glycerol is combined with 3 fatty acids to make lipids. And that can be used as an energy store. And then last one from me, proteins. glucose plus nitrates. It's an S, sorry, plus nitrates are involved in the production of amino acids. Those amino acids are then used in the synthesis of proteins. And then we've just mentioned that excess proteins are broken down to produce urea. Okay, so it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. Let me just see if there is an easy way to share a file with you. Okay, not obvious. What I'll do is I will just take the list of everyone who's attended today, gents. I'm just going to email the file straight over to you now at the end of this. So I'll take all of your emails off the attendees list. So you'll get a little set of respiration questions just on aerobic and anaerobic, response to exercise and metabolism. It is quite hefty. It's 151 marks there. They're sort of easy, medium and hard, so you can pace yourself with it. And then I'll provide you with the mark scheme next week. Well done for joining for another hour at the end of a long school day. Really fantastic. Go away, have a nice rest, and I will see you same time next week. We will have a go next week, probably at the beginning of the B2 content. I'm happy to take requests. If you want to come and ask me, you can come and say, Sarah, I'd like to revise this. More than happy to do that, but I will probably begin the B2 inheritance, variation and evolution topic next week. Okay, thanks very much, gents. Have a nice evening.